Imagine this. You're sitting across from someone, maybe a friend, a colleague, a family member, laughing at their jokes, nodding along to their stories, even contributing to the conversation. On the surface, everything appears normal. But beneath the polite smiles and the rhythmic back and forth, something unsettling gnaws at you. A hollow sensation, as if you're not really there. As if the person in front of you is a ghost, or worse, you are. The words keep flowing, the interaction ticks along, but with every passing minute, you feel emptier, drained, like you're pouring yourself into a bottomless vessel. And when you walk away, you're left with a quiet, haunting question. Why? Why do some people leave you feeling like a shadow of yourself? Why do certain conversations, even pleasant ones, feel like emotional theft? And most unnervingly, why does no one seem to notice this but you? You've tried to rationalize it. Maybe you're tired. Maybe they're just not your kind of person. But the truth is deeper, darker, and far more revealing. This emptiness isn't random. It's not a flaw in you or them. It's the silent collision of two invisible forces. The masks we wear and the selves we've abandoned. Think of the last time you felt this way. Was it the colleague who only speaks in rehearsed anecdotes, never revealing a single true thought? The friend who fills every silence with noise, but never actually listens? The family member who demands your attention, but never truly sees you? These are not coincidences. These are encounters with something ancient and unsettling, a phenomenon as old as human connection itself. Here's the paradox. The more someone tries to appear whole, the more they amplify the emptiness around them. Consider the people who leave you invigorated, alive, seen. They're not necessarily the loudest or the most charming. They're the ones who don't perform, who don't feed on your energy like emotional vampires, who aren't desperately stitching together a persona to hide the void within. But here's the real question, the one that claws at your ribs when you re-alone at 3 a.m. Are you also one of these people for someone else? Could you, without realizing it, be the source of that same hollowing feeling in another person? Have you, in your own hunger to be liked, to be valued, to be enough, become a mirror reflecting nothing but expectation? This is where the discomfort sharpens, because the emptiness you feel around certain people isn't just about them. It's about recognition, a subconscious realization that you're staring at a distortion of your own unspoken fears. What if the void you sense in them is the same void you've been running from in yourself? The conversation isn't empty. You are. And that's the terrifying truth lurking beneath these encounters. They're not just draining you, they're showing you, revealing the parts of your soul you've neglected, the authenticity you've traded for approval, the self you've buried to avoid rejection. This is why the emptiness follows you. It's not them. It's the echo of your own disconnection. But this is only the beginning. Because now, the real question isn't why you feel this way. It's what lies beneath it. And the answer will force you to confront everything you think you know about identity, relationships, and the invisible cages we build for ourselves. The emptiness you feel around certain people isn't an illusion. It's not a matter of chemistry or personality differences. It's the inevitable result of something far more profound, the death of presence. We live in an age where being has been replaced by performing, where authenticity is sacrificed at the altar of social survival. And the people who drain you, who leave you feeling like a ghost in your own life, are often the ones most trapped in this masquerade. The Jungian mask and the lost self Carl Jung called it the persona, the mask we wear to navigate the world. A necessary adaptation, he argued, but one with a sinister cost. The more identified we become with the mask, the more we lose touch with the true self beneath it. Think of the people who leave you feeling empty. Are they truly there? Or are they reciting lines from an internal script, projecting whatever version of themselves they believe will secure validation? The hollowness you sense is the absence of a soul behind the eyes, the uncanny valley of human connection. Jung warned that when the persona grows too thick, it becomes a prison. And when you interact with someone trapped in that prison, you aren't meeting them. You're meeting them. You're meeting their warden. Nietzsche's abyss and the hunger for false idols. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this emptiness coming long before the digital age. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster, he wrote. And when you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. The abyss is the void of meaning, the existential hunger that drives people to construct fragile identities out of likes, status, and borrowed personalities. The more someone relies on external validation to feel real, the more they unreal themselves. And when you engage with them, you aren't just talking to a person, you're re-talking to the abyss they've become. This is why narcissists, social chameleons, and perpetual performers leave you so drained. They are black holes of attention, warping reality around their need for affirmation. And the emptiness you feel is the gravitational pull of their unmet hunger. Sartre's hell. The people who make you their mirror, Jean-Paul Sartre famously wrote, "Hell is other people." But he wasn't talking about people in general. He was talking about the gaze of those who refuse to see you as anything but a reflection of their own needs. When someone interacts with you not out of curiosity, but out of a need to confirm their own existence, they turn you into an object, a prop, and in that moment you disappear. This is why certain conversations feel like emotional theft, because they are. You are being used as a sounding board for someone else's fragile ego, and your own humanity is erased in the process. The Schopenhauerian dilemma. Porcupines in Winter. Arthur Schopenhauer told a parable of porcupines huddling for warmth in winter. Too close, and they prick each other. Too far, and they freeze. Human relationships, he argued, are the same. But what happens when one porcupine refuses to acknowledge its own quills? When it demands closeness while denying the pain it causes? That is the essence of the emptiness you feel, the dissonance of being asked to provide warmth to someone who keeps you at spear's length. The modern plague, digital selves, and the death of depth. Aldous Huxley predicted a world where people would adore the technologies that undo their capacity to think. Social media, personal branding, the cult of self-optimization. We have built entire identities on the unstable foundation of being perceived. And when you encounter someone who has conflated their worth with their online persona, the interaction is doomed from the start. You are not speaking to a person. You are speaking to a brand, a curated illusion, a hologram of human traits assembled for mass consumption. No wonder it leaves you empty. The unspoken truth. You are a threat to the inauthentic. Here's the unsettling part. The emptier a person is inside, the more they resent those who aren't. Your authenticity, your ability to feel this hollowness, is a mirror they cannot bear to look into. This is why certain people seem to drain you intentionally. It's not deliberate malice, it's self-preservation. If they can pull you into their void, they won't have to face the fact that they're drowning. But this is only the mechanism. The real question is, why does it hurt so much? Because it forces you to confront your own masks, your own fears of invisibility, your own complicity in the game. And that is where the true rebellion begins. The emptiness you feel in these interactions is not passive. It doesn't just fade when you walk away. It lingers, accumulates, and metastasizes. Like radiation poisoning for the soul, its effects are slow, invisible, and devastating. The cognitive dissonance of performed relationships. Every time you force a laugh at a hollow joke, every time you nod along to a conversation that means nothing, every time you suppress your discomfort to keep the peace, you drive a wedge between who you are and who you pretend to be. This is cognitive dissonance in its purest form, the agony of acting against your own awareness. Studies on emotional labor confirm what you've felt all along. Faking engagement is more exhausting than genuine engagement. The brain doesn't distinguish between playing nice and betrayal. It registers the disconnect as a threat. This is why you leave certain interactions feeling not just tired, but erased. The neurological betrayal, how your brain reacts to inauthenticity. fMRI scans reveal something startling. When you're around someone performing a persona, your brain's mirror neuron system, the mechanism responsible for empathy and connection, goes dark. You instinctively recoil, not out of malice, but because your primal social wiring screams, "This is not real." Worse, your default mode network starts to destabilize. In the presence of inauthenticity, you unconsciously begin to question your own reality. If they're fake, does that mean I'm fake too? This is the hidden cost of tolerating emptiness. It doesn't just drain you, it unmakes you. The social contagion of void emptiness spreads like a virus. When you spend time with people who operate on autopilot, who substitute cliches for thoughts, charm for substance, likability for depth, you don't just witness their hollowness. You adapt to it. Psychologists call this emotional contagion, and its effects are chilling. Over time, you start mirroring their disconnection. Your conversations become shallower. Your laughter becomes performative. Your thoughts become quieter. You don't even notice it happening until one day you catch yourself speaking in rehearsed lines and wonder, when did I become a ghost? The Stockholm Syndrome of modern connection. Here's the cruelest twist. The more you tolerate emptiness, the more you crave it. Like a prisoner bonding with their captor, you begin to mistake the absence of pain for the presence of meaning. You settle for nice over real, pleasant over alive. This is how soul-deadening relationships persist. Not because they fulfill you, but because they've conditioned you to fear the alternative, the terrifying vulnerability of true connection, the silent death of attention. The philosopher Simone Weil wrote, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." But what happens when attention is weaponized? When someone looks at you but only sees an audience? This is the great unspoken crime of empty interactions. They steal your attention, your most precious resource, and offer nothing in return. Every minute spent humoring a hollow dynamic is a minute stolen from the people, ideas, and passions that actually sustain you. The withdrawal symptoms of a fake world, you've felt it before. That strange, aching withdrawal after too much time in the real world. The sense that something vital has been leached from you. It's not depression. It's not fatigue. It's detox. Your psyche is rejecting the poison of inauthenticity the way a body rejects spoiled food. The nausea you feel isn't a malfunction. It's a warning. A biological imperative that screams, this is not how humans are meant to interact. The fork in the road right now, you're standing at a threshold. One path leads deeper into the fog, into a life of polite autopilot, of smiling through the void, of trading depth for convenience. The other path is harder. It demands ruthless discernment. It requires you to offend, to disappoint, to walk away from relationships that drain you, even if they're good enough. But this path has a secret. The moment you stop tolerating emptiness, you become a magnet for substance. The question is, do you want a life of full people or a life of full interactions? Because the rebellion doesn't start with changing who you're around. It starts with changing how you show up. And that is where the real work begins. The realization hits you like a silent detonation. You have been complicit in your own emptiness. You've smiled when you wanted to scream, nodded when you wanted to vanish, stayed when you should have left. But this knowledge isn't condemnation, it's liberation. Because the moment you recognize your own role in these hollow exchanges, you seize the power to end them. The radical act of selective presence, Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust by finding meaning in unimaginable suffering, wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And that space is our power to choose our response. That space is where your rebellion begins. Start with this brutal filter. Does this interaction make me feel more or less alive? Not, is this person good? Not, is this conversation pleasant? But does this leave me feeling like myself, or like a ghost of myself? This isn't selfishness, it's survival. Every time you choose presence over politeness, you starve the emptiness that feeds on your compliance. The art of violent discernment. Friedrich Nietzsche proclaimed, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. But chaos requires space that's being stolen by energy vampires, masquerading as friends, lovers, colleagues. Practice ruthless excision. The friend who only calls to monologue, let the calls go to voicemail. The family member who treats you as an emotional landfill, set boundaries like your soul depends on it. The coworker who turns every conversation into a performance, disengage like you're unplugging from the matrix. This isn't cruelty. It's self-defense. As Jung warned, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But you'll never meet that terrifying self while drowning in empty noise. The antidote to performative living. Martin Buber's philosophy of I-thou relationships reveals the cure. Treat others not as objects, but as infinite, complex beings. But here's the revolutionary twist: demand the same in return. When someone speaks to you, do their eyes flicker with recognition or glaze with self-absorption? Do their questions probe or just pause before their next soliloquy? Does silence between you feel fertile or like a crisis to be filled? The moment you start requiring depth, two things happen. The empty ones flee. The real ones appear like miracles. The power of strategic loneliness. Society pathologizes solitude, but the greatest minds, from Kierkegaard to Tesla to Wolff, knew its alchemical power. Better to be unaccompanied than accompanied by shadows. Try this experiment. For 1 month, decline every interaction that doesn't spark at least a flicker of joy or growth. Observe what happens. First, panic. Then, withdrawal. Finally, a shocking discovery. The emptiness wasn't in you. It was the infection of inauthentic company. The language of the unmasked empty relationships thrive on scripted dialogue. Break the algorithm. When someone asks, "How are you?" As a greeting, answer truthfully, "Today feels heavy." You? When conversations veer into superficiality, pivot. What's something you've been afraid to admit lately? When you feel the familiar drain setting in, say, "I need to go recharge. Let's connect when we can really be present." This isn't social sabotage. It's triage. As Rumi wrote, respond to every call that excites your spirit. The corollary? Ignore those that don't. The rebirth of your social instincts. Years of conditioning have numbed your ability to detect authenticity. Reawaken it. The hand test. After an interaction, notice your physical state. Do your hands feel light or leaden? The echo effect. Does the conversation linger in your mind with warmth or a metallic aftertaste? The 24-hour rule. If you wouldn't willingly revisit this interaction tomorrow, it wasn't real. The uncompromising paradox. Here's the secret they never told you. The more you tolerate emptiness, the more it defines you. The less you tolerate it, the more it avoids you. Like a magnet reversing polarity, the moment you stop chasing counterfeit connection, genuine connection starts finding you. Not because the world changes, but because your standards radiate an invisible signal. I only accept what nourishes me. This isn't theory, it's physics. But the final revelation, the one that recontextualizes every hollow interaction you've ever endured, is still ahead. The emptiness was never about them. It was always about you. Not in the way you've been taught, not as blame, not as inadequacy, not as some personal failing to fit in, but as a merciless, magnificent revelation. The void you sensed in others was your own soul's rebellion against counterfeit connection. The mirror you couldn't look away from. Every time you felt that knowing hollowness, it wasn't just detecting absence in another. It was recognizing the parts of yourself you surrendered to keep the peace. The conversations that drained you did so, because somewhere in your bones, you knew, I am betraying myself by participating in this charade. Carl Jung was right when he said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But the inverse is also true. Everything that drains us in others reveals where we've abandoned ourselves. The existential algebra of authenticity. For years, you've been solving the wrong equation. You thought, if I can just find the right people, I'll feel whole. But the real equation is, the more whole I become, the more the right people appear. This isn't law of attraction mysticism, it's neurological fact. When you stop performing, you emit different social signals. Your posture changes. Your vocal cadence shifts. Your pheromones literally transform. You become a homing beacon for other authentic beings, while repelling those who feed on falseness. The death of the performer, the birth of the self. Jean-Paul Sartre wrote, "We are our choices." But you've been choosing from a menu written by ghosts, by generations of people who also feared emptiness, who also wore masks, who also settled for the anesthesia of social compliance over the terrifying thrill of real connection. Now comes the ultimate choice. Continue the performance and keep the peace. Or burn the script and meet the only people who matter, those who love the unscripted you. The final paradox. Here it is, the revelation that changes everything. The emptiness you feared was never your enemy. It was your compass. It wasn't warning you about others. It was reminding you of yourself. Every hollow conversation, every draining interaction, every moment you felt like a ghost in your own life, that was your soul's last-ditch effort to get your attention. To scream, this is not who we are. This is not why we're here. The invitation somewhere tonight is a person sitting across from someone they love, feeling utterly alone. Somewhere tomorrow, a colleague will laugh too loud at a boss's joke while dying inside. Somewhere right now, someone is choosing between being liked and being real, and you know exactly how that feels. But you've been given the terrible, beautiful gift of awareness. And with it comes responsibility. To stop abandoning yourself in empty rooms. To stop drinking from broken wells. To become so fiercely authentic that your mere presence gives others permission to do the same. The philosopher Martin Heidegger argued that authenticity is the highest form of rebellion. He was right. Every time you choose real connection over performative comfort, you don't just save yourself, you strike a match in the collective darkness. The last question. When you're old and looking back on your life, what will haunt you more? The times you were yourself and lost people? Or the times you lost yourself to keep people? The answer is your compass. The choice is your revolution. The time is now. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video. It helps others find these insights too. And if you're ready for more content that challenges the way you think and love, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Your journey to a deeper, more authentic life starts here.